welcome to the Swift Half, your weekly session of chat from the UK OCR and adventure running scene. Each week, pub landlord Alan and our favourite regular Ian discuss races, runners and anything else that comes to mind. So pull up a pew, pour yourself a drink and join us for the Swift Half.
You're listening to the 18th most popular podcast for listeners who know you can be both dexterous and sinister.
Hey, my friend, welcome to Swift Half again. How are you?
Happy mid-September, Alan.
That sounds strange, that mid-September. That's actually September, October. That's 3 months till Christmas. 100 days.
I worked it out today that we are less than 3 months and 2 weeks until the big day again. And someone said, oh, that's still a lot of time. And then I pointed out that it was over 8 months since last Christmas. So I'm a homeward stretch.
I think I might be a Grinch this Christmas and just not do anything at all. Why change our bit of a lifetime?
There we go. Christmas is always a weird time for me, no, but yeah. I don't know what we're going to be doing. And actually, listeners, if you've got any ideas of what Ian and Alan can do for Christmas, let us know, because I'm quite curious. But what I always do on Christmas, Alan, is I do have an orange, which brings me up to what I'm drinking this week.
What are you drinking this week, Ian?
I went and got a meal deal, but this is not your regular meal deal.
Well, not a regular one. So it's not a Tesco. It's not a Morrison's. It's
not.
Spencer's?
It's not a Marks and Spencer's. I had to go and get some fuel for the car.
Yeah.
So I got a petrol station meal deal, but it wasn't just a petrol station meal deal.
I've got a picture now. You're getting like you've got some orange petrol to drink tonight.
I've not got orange petrol. It was a little Waitrose meal deal.
Oh, what did you get in it?
I got a salt beef sandwich, a little... or what do you call them? Flapjack, a little brownie flapjack, because I fancied that for my breakfast. So it was in the meal deal. So I bought it and then just had fruit for dinner. And Alan, I got a Tropicana orange and mango to drink tonight.
Oh, does it have the little bits in it as well? Because I love the Tropicana with bits in it.
I didn't check. Oh no, it's pure pressed. You know, Tropicana, it doesn't say with bits in without. It says pure press. Isn't that posh?
Yeah, so it will have bits in. It seriously will have little orange bit. I love that, mate.
Oh yeah, I can taste the. Yeah, it's not like a orange drink you have which has pulp in. You know that you get from supermarket. It literally feels like they've just grated an orange.
Yeah,
It's really smooth. That's really good.
I love it. It's one of my favourite ones. That when it comes to orange juice, if I go into get orange juice from anywhere and they've got Tropicana, I always get that.
That's a good shout, because I honestly can't remember the last time I had a Tropicana. See, listener, it's so good it's sending me loopy a little bit. But there must be some kind of alcohol in this. But anyway, I can't remember the last time I had Tropicana, and it is so much better than regular orange juice.
It's without a doubt. I've been boring tonight.
What are you having?
I'm just on Coca-Cola, straight up. Diet Coca-Cola. Been really boring. However, because we've got a guest coming on later, I've actually got it in a Spartan cup. Now you can see this, Ian. I'm not sure all our listeners can, but I've actually got a Spartan cup in my house, and I've dug it out and I've put Coca-Cola in it. I'm going on a lot of caffeine, and the reason why, and I'll tell you the reason why, because we've got the caffeine bullets, and I've trained with them now 3 times. So I've had 3 training runs with them 3 times, but on Tuesday of this week, I actually took 6 to work and did 1 every hour over a 6-hour period to see what my stomach would do with them before Siege Summit later on this month. So, and it's working well. I'm actually enjoying the orange ones, the chocolate orange ones. I'm enjoying.
I was very tempted. Funny you mention work, and we've discussed on the show that personal choice, I don't take caffeine, but the great thing is Caffeine Bullet is in the future, fingers crossed, releasing something else. I think that's not a big secret. It's on their website and it's on their socials. But I was so tempted, Alan, having bought a bunch of caffeine bullets for the intern because she's my test subject and she's loving them too. I was going to buy another bag and just put it in the office to see what happened.
You're going to get more productive. Seriously, it kept me awake much more than I would normally. I didn't get no buzz from it, which is good because I don't want a buzz from it. I just want to feel that more alert, more awake. And to be honest, I think it's doing what it does, and that's exactly what I'm doing. 3 I took on Sunday on my run. I did 12 miles on Sunday, took 3 on Sunday. Tuesday, on my run of Tuesday, after I'd already done some through the day, I took another 2 while I was on a little 9 miler. So yeah, they're working well. Well pleased with them.
That's good. So do you think if they kept you away, that the people who have the misfortune to work with me, who I rely on, I should start bringing them in, maybe rewrap them in something so we don't know what they are, and see if it helps their productivity?
I think you should do. Just put them in Ferrero Rocher wrappers. Everyone loves a Ferrero Rocher.
Exactly. And HR, if you're listening, I'm not actually going to do this. If I do bring them in, I'll make everyone aware. I promise. But Alan, while we're still testing these, we still do have a discount code, don't we, for everyone?
We do, yeah. UK OCR. So I think I've got the link on our Facebook page, but I'll put it up again. I'm also going to put it on the website this week on our discount page. It's going to go on there as well. So the links will take you straight to the shop. UK OCR, 20% discount, which works out quite good.
And whilst trying not to butt kiss a potential sponsor too much, have you been watching their socials?
I haven't, no. I'm going to be real honest. This weekend, Ian, I have remained off socials. Tell me a bit about the socials first, and I'll tell you why I've remained off socials.
Absolutely. Their social media manager is a young lady called Cassie. I say young lady, she's younger than me and you. Yeah, I'm not sure her age. That wasn't meant disparaging, but she's definitely younger than me and you, Alan, which means she could be any age from 18 to, 65 are you?
Close. I feel that sometimes.
Yeah. So, but she is doing a great job of just little silly things that are great. And she started this series. I think it's got 2 so far, so I don't know if it counts as a series yet, called Challenge Cassie.
Okay.
And the first time she went out and ran in her pajamas. I think it was just spontaneous. Someone said, why don't you go and run in your PJs? So she went and had a run in her PJs.
Like it. Bit of fun.
Second one, someone challenged her to run a 5K backwards.
Okay. That's a bit tougher.
It was. I believe it took her twice as long as a regular 5K, and she really wanted to stop. But well done to Cassie for keeping it up. I don't think I could do 100 meters backwards, Alan.
I have run backwards because it's actually good for your glutes. So I was having major hamstring problems at one point, and the physio said to me, he said, try and run backwards. And obviously, don't go too far. So I used to go to a local running track near me, and I'd run the 100 meters and I'd run it backwards, straight line. You can see where you're going because you're looking at the lines in behind you, but actually in front of you, which sounds strange. But it's good for hamstrings and glutes. So I have tried running backwards. Not 5K though. Not sure if it means I'd run a 5K backwards.
No, well done to Cassie. She is asking for additional challenges. So with next week being Talk Like a Pirate Day, Alan, I have challenged her to do a 5K in some form of pirate scheme. Pirate theme. I guess a scheme's what pirates do. But let's see if she does that. But maybe you and me should start doing challenges, Alan.
Whoa. You should start doing the challenge. I have enough things on my plate to do the challenge. You said to someone, Alan's going to do a challenge. Alan's going to do it, isn't he? You know what I mean? It's like, no, we're not having that challenge, Alan. We're not having challenge, Annika.
I do think Challenge Alan's got a much better ring to it than Challenge Ian.
Listeners, if you've got a challenge that me and Ian can do, then send it in. We will see what we can do. Gosh, I now we've opened up a Pandora's box, I think.
Send it to challenge@ukocr.com. You may get a bounce back email saying the email doesn't exist, but don't worry, I'm sure it would have come through.
Yeah. No, admin@ukocr.com. Send him. I will copy him. If you don't send him in, I'll make something up for Ian.
But we may send these on to Caffeine Bullet because they appear much better than us doing challenges.
Yeah,
That's my
I like
little
that.
get out clause, and I'm sticking to it.
I like that.
So,
Shall I tell you why I've been
Alan,
off? Gone.
I was going to say, yeah, great bridge to why you've been off socials.
Um, this is probably a bit hard for me to actually explain, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to bring it up tonight or not. But I've been very down this weekend, Ian. But I mean, like, I've never suffered from depression, anxiety. I'm a pretty resilient guy. Never had anything like that at all. But last week we broke the story of Jack, and when I say broke it, we didn't break it. People knew about it, but we mentioned it. And since then, since last week when we broke it, I seem to have been surrounded by death, if that makes sense, or people who are seriously ill. At work, I've got a few people at work. Few people I went to school with recently passed away in the last week or so that I've only just found out the weekend. And I didn't realise, but I got up on Saturday morning, went to work on Saturday morning, as you do normally, and I just felt a little bit off it. And Paula sent me a text message, just nothing out of the blue, and I took it completely wrong. This text message was jokey and fun, and I didn't even take it that way whatsoever. I've looked back at it now, like 5, 6 days later, and I realize, I'm reading it different. But I was really down, and I mean, I'm quite lucky that Paula deals with mental health at work. That's what her job is, and she recognised it when I came home that evening. She recognised that there was something wrong with me, and I just want to reach out, I guess. And I think what one of the things that Reddit actually also at the weekend I read the story of the guy who died on the Great North Run. Was it the Great North Run?
Was Great North Run this weekend.
Great North Run that passed away, Sam Wellens, and that brought in, and it just made me think. I am getting old. I'm not young anymore. And it made me realise that I'm not invincible. If things can happen to such like Jack, who's such a young age, and I've lost people I went to school with, and people at work are not well, and Sam Wellens is like, I think he's 36 if I remember rightly, when I read the article. It just made me realise, I guess, over the weekend that I'm not invincible, and I am only human. I mean, and don't get me wrong, listeners, there's nothing wrong with me, in terms of I've got nothing medically wrong with that I'm aware as of yet. But it just really, really, really got me down. So I just want to, I mean, we don't talk about men's mental health often enough, and I've never experienced anything like this. Luckily, I've got a great support network in Paul on that. But I just want to, if anyone out there, if we fetch anything up that affects you people, like it affected me over the weekend, and you want to reach out to us, guys, and that I mean that genuinely. Admin at ukocr.com. You can message me, Alan Moore, on Facebook. Anyone can find me. My Facebook's open. I would say use Instagram. I don't go on Instagram as much. It tends to go through the Facebook link for us. But definitely reach out to me, and I'm happy. I'm here to speak to anyone. I won't want anyone to go through what I felt over the weekend. And I've not spoken to you, and I've said this to you earlier, didn't I? I said I've been really, really quiet. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, I was like super quiet, and I didn't want to run with any of my buddies. Jamie dragged me out on Tuesday night. I didn't really want to go, but he dragged me out and lifted me up a little bit, But it's been one of them weeks for me and one of them weekends. So anyone else out there who's feeling similar, reach out. Just reach out, guys. Speak to someone. If it's not us, someone.
Yeah, I will give a little peek behind the curtain. As you can probably guess, listener, me and Alan do text quite a lot. And today, on the recording day, is when we always send each other a message, usually along the lines of, have you put anything on the notes, or can you do it here, or whatever. And it was today when I looked at it, I realized I hadn't actually sent or received a text from Alan since last Friday when the last episode came out. So it did scare me a little bit. And as you say, Alan, mental health is so tough. And yeah, we're not experts. We will do our best to help you. If you do prefer Instagram, then at uk.hxr will get you through to mainly me, but I can happily pass that on to someone else if you'd actually like to talk to someone who'd probably help you. So I can happily pass on to Alan and to the intern. Also, a couple of other places. Mud and Mines on Facebook do a great job of being there for you. So if you're not already a member of Mud and Minds, please go and join that. If you are a man, then we've also got Andy's a Man Club as well, Alan, which meet in lots of local places, sometimes the pub, which would be perfect, sometimes a local village hall. And I believe they usually have biscuits when it's in a village hall. So, yeah, if no other
Ian
reason
biscuits.
than, yeah, you can get a free biscuit. And unlike Will Chung, who has to give blood to get a free biscuit, you can just turn up.
I like that. But it was a serious note, and I did want to bring it up. I wasn't sure if I did originally, but yeah, I think it was great to fetch it up and let people know.
No, it did. And we should probably tell listeners that please go on Instagram. Please follow Jack Captor's story. Please like it. Please share your thoughts. Honestly, he is far, far braver than I could ever be, Alan, because if anything like that happened to me, I'd probably just delete all socials because I wouldn't know how to cope. And he is such an inspiration because he's trying to help people, even though he is facing potential mortality. Like you were saying, you faced over the weekend.
Mm,
At the moment, it's still a mystery to you. And it's still a mystery to Jack, but it's still a scary time for him. So please support him, listener.
definitely, definitely. Shall we move on to some news that's come out this week? I know you've seen my Strava. Everyone's seen my Strava, and my Strava's getting faster, which makes me think I'm waiting for the message to come out that says I've got a mule on my Strava, which was some news that came out this week.
I absolutely love this news. And this is a lighter topic because honestly, Alan, who is paying anyone to do Strava runs? I can just about, and it doesn't make it right, I can just about accept someone running a marathon for another person to get them Boston qualifying or a good for age in London. Just about I can see why you do that. I don't agree with it, but I can see.
Yep.
Why the hell are you getting someone to run your 5 miles fast run for you on Strava?
And I don't get it at all because it's Strava, for God's sake, it's Strava. Do people actually follow Strava that much? I really don't get it, and I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked when I saw this. I was like, from marathons to Mount Everest, Strava's users are paying. Why pay someone? You can easily see it. I know there's things like segment champions, a king of something in there. I used to always want a long, long time ago, a hill near me that I'd ran up the fastest, and I think I held it for about 2 years. But I would never think about paying someone to get that because it never meant anything to me. No one ever sent me anything because I got king of this segment or whatever like that. I never, no one. Adidas never contacted me and say, Alan, you've got king of this hill. Here's some Adidas trainers for you or anything like that. It was like, so what?
No, you mention it. I did get someone to run my Strava really, really slow, which might be how we got the caffeine bullet gig. Oh, wait. No, the really slow person on my Strava, that was me.
Yeah, that was you. Has anyone? I want to ask this question. I don't know if anyone's going to. Someone, please tell me out there if you've ever had anyone run for you on your Strava. And I won't use your name. But just message me and tell me why you did it. I don't think anyone. I just can't see anyone ever doing it. I know. I've got a friend. I'm not going to name this particular friend, but his son is always competitive with him, and his son has learning difficulties. I don't know which pigeonhole you would put them in, but he's got learning difficulties, and his son makes him use his Fitbit when he goes running, just so he can keep to a similar close level of steps to his dad. It's something that's in his head. He wants to remain like he thinks because his Fitbit's doing it, he's doing it. And the guy helps him out like that. But I mean, we're talking about it's not Strava; it's a little Fitbit for a child with learning difficulties. I don't know. Somebody tell me. Somebody tell me they've paid someone. I'll don't. You can't come and pay me because my times are nowhere near good enough for me to get paid. But yeah.
Well, I was thinking we could go into business here, Alan, in that obviously these people are currently paying fast meals, but they could pay you to run their medium paces and me to run their long, slow paces, and then their Strava will look normal.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just have a normal Strava, but you run fast, medium, and slow.
Perfect. Say, never really seen a mule. I have seen Alan a few years back. I'm not going to give any names because it's not fair and can't prove anything anyway. But there was an occasion where in the Manchester Marathon,
Yeah.
a friend of mine said that they ran past the same person 3 or 4 times in the race without ever seeing him go past them. And the Manchester Marathon has intersections where it's quite easy to, cut across. Like you could completely ignore Altrincham. So, and when that person uploaded their race on Strava, they didn't upload the data. They uploaded a picture of, ironically, my friend's Strava data picture and then manually entered their time.
Oh, yeah, that's not good. That's cheating. That's cheating. Talking
Pure
about
and
marathons.
simple.
Talking about marathons. I know we're jumping onto another side track here, but Will responded to your question.
He did indeed. And you know what? He made a lot more sense than you did.
He certainly did. And actually, I was thinking, he's right. This is actually right. Shall we tell this is what he said?
Do you want to either read it out or do you want to tell the audience?
I'll tell the audience, I'm not going to go searching for my phone, but basically, Will said he doesn't run marathons because if you tell someone that you've run a marathon, the first question out of their head is, what time did you get? Yeah. And he doesn't want to be pigeonholed into a time for a marathon. Whereas when you say to someone, I've run an ultra, you don't get pigeonholed because no one asks you what time you ran. The question is usually, how far did you run, not what time. So it's a whole different scenario, and I quite like it. Is that about summing it up?
It is. I think he also mentioned, I hope I'm not making this part up, but he also mentioned that in his head, he had a particular time that he would like to complete a marathon in, and there may be a little bit of all-consumingness about it to try and hit that time as well, which again, I can completely understand because as you just mentioned, people are presupposed with how fast have you run a marathon. And yeah, honestly, Will, I'm never going to ask you the question again or ever ask anyone why they haven't done a particular race because I think that answer probably sums up a lot of things, like even high rocks. Why have you not done a high rocks? Well, I don't think I'll get a fast time, and people will ask me how fast I went it because you're seeing that more and more now anyway, aren't you?
Yes, definitely, definitely. Ian, let's move on because Will. It was great to hear about Will's marathon and everything else and that, but I still think, well, the one other thing he did say, cake. You get to eat cake in ultras, so that's got to be an ultra run.
You absolutely do get to eat cake. And speaking of having your cake and eating it, Alan, we've got a guest to tell us of some Spartan news.
Ooh, Ian, I'm going
That's
to let you introduce this one. Second one.
All the way from America, we got Gary B. Gary B, welcome to the Swift Half.
Hey guys, appreciate it. I think this is what second or third appearance, so we'll try not to talk too much about English food, even though you started off talking about cake, which I assume is horrible over there, but that's all right. But yeah, I think we got some exciting news. Hopefully your listeners like it. Most of them hopefully will. I know we talked about some that probably will be a little bit cranky, but that's just the UK way, right? Or the Spartan way.
Very true. Can I just do a rebuttal on the British cake is no good? We have Great British Bake Off over here, or that British baking show. Is that what you call it over the British Baking Show? Something like that.
Yeah, I think. Well, no, I think we call it the Great British Bake Off. Yeah.
Great British Bake Off. We have that over there. I'm not sure if you ever eat cake on there, but it looks nice.
It looks nice. Very true. Oddly, it's one thing, right? As we're already getting off to the sidetrack, it seems like America loves to copy British TV shows. I think we let you guys do it first, and then we perfect it over here in the US. So it's interesting because even the baking shows we've done that with.
I love
That,
the cakes over in America though, Ian, because when I went over there and I was down at Florida, I had key lime pie. Now, what you get key lime pie over here is nothing compared to over there. You know, when you get a slice of cake, you actually get a dinner plate of cake. It was like, oh, it was the best, Ian. So I'm not gonna slate cake over in the States. Cake is good wherever I am.
cake is good wherever you are, but we have sidetracked. So, Gary B, could you let us know the big news that came out at the start of this week?
Yeah, so the biggest change, obviously, we're going back to elite and age group. I can already hear it. We've already seen it. Spartan can't keep up their minds. But I think what we saw was we tried something new last year. We had a new employee come in from sort of the Tough Mudder side. Chris Maltby, he changed up some things. Unfortunately, left before I think he could see the full execution of it. And we just didn't really see it as a success numbers wise. We've seen the open heat really exploding over in Europe, here in the US, Canada, pretty much everywhere, but that competitive heat has actually gone down in most cases or remained stagnant. So we just haven't seen the level of increase. And I think that came from some confusion. Racers weren't really sure what competitive heat meant, especially after all the kind of education we've done on age group and elite. And then the series races were different than standard races. And, even on a weekend, right, you might have competitive on a Saturday, but then Sunday it's elite and age group. So I think racers were a little bit confused about it. I think the format was pretty well received for the people that were able to get into it and make sense of it and make sense of pace groups and all that. But I think just overall it led to just confusion of the consumers. So we really simplified it, went back to elite age group and competitive, or I'm sorry, elite age group and open for 2025. Elite being kind of the prize money series and the prize money at world championships and, the top of the top and the top racers. And then age group being those racers that can't compete necessarily at the top level, but they still want to compete. They still want those highly officiated heats that we're going to be bringing here, that we have worked with the federations. I know that in the UK, there's a UK federation there of obstacle course racers that they're working with. Here in the US, we have USA OCR that we're starting to work with and trying to get more referees certified, similar to what they would do in like a CrossFit, where prior to showing up, you're going to be a referee, potentially what obstacles you might be at. And you get a little bit more detailed training. So it's not just a sheet of paper that you read. And, there's little nuances to obstacles that we want to go through. So that's the first change. Really, it's about simplification. We want to continue to grow the sport. And in order to do that, we have to bring new people in. So, I think our longtime racers maybe like this change a little bit more than, the elite and age group. And we've seen some of the arguments for it. But I just think overall it confused a lot of racers, and especially a lot of newbies. And so we just want to continue to grow that heat. The one thing we are keeping is going to be sort of mixed age groups. So you can run with any age group that you want to. The age group heats will typically run for about an hour or so, depending on the country. Here in the US, we start at 7:15. I know some other countries, they start a little bit later with those heats, but you can select what heat you want. So I can run, with my son who's only 25, even though we're different age groups, stuff like that. So we saw that stuff. Same thing with husbands and wives. People just want to run with friends that maybe are a year younger, a year older, and so they're in a different age group. So we are keeping that aspect of it, which we think was kind of the big success here. Second part of all this is making the series a little bit simpler to get to. So I know we talked before we started recording here, but no more mandatory. Depending on how many events is going to be how many races count. So if it's a 3-event series, it might be 2 out of 3. If it's a 5-event series, it might be 3 out of 5. And so that way people that, have a wedding to go to some weekend or just for whatever reason can't make it to a race, it still matters to the series. And the points will be adjusted back to how we did them kind of in 2023, where winner gets 300 and it kind of drops off down to there, and we pay out, or not pay out, but give points to all the places in the age group and elite. So that way you're not running a race, and because you end up in 20th place, you don't get any points. You still get credited with that. So yeah, we're really excited about these changes. Again, I think it just boils down to simplification and to help us grow the sport, which is obviously the ultimate goal.
Oh, absolutely. And I did mention a little bit jokingly, cake and eat it. And that's a reference to this idea of keeping the pace groups, which I think is a great idea. Unfortunately, me and Alan are not in the same age group. But yeah, it would be good for us to run together, mainly so he can try and pace me to actually get anywhere but last place in my age group. That could potentially happen. So I think that's a great idea. Plus, you don't get the situation we sometimes see where the less popular age group, you're literally racing against no one. It becomes like a time trial for you at certain points.
Yeah, exactly. We do understand that most people will probably pick that first heat because they want to get off there in the morning, but other people that maybe want to sleep in a little bit more, 7:15 is really early to get to a race and be ready and prepared. So, maybe you're picking that 8 o'clock heat because you prefer to be out there. And just to clarify, you're picking exact heat time so you can pick what's best for you. I think the pace groups themselves were almost a little bit confusing for some people because it was like if you run a 5K at this pace, you're in this group, but if you're half marathons, this pace. And for me, I'm a short racer, so I might be running a 21-minute 5K, but my times would not be anywhere competitive in a beast heat because once you get past that 20-minute mark, I start to slow down quite a bit. So we just want to get rid of that confusion and keep the good parts, right? The racing with people, like you said, you can race with your friends, you can be competitive together. Just because there might be an age difference, you shouldn't be excluded from racing and competing against those people.
Definitely,
Alan,
definitely. Go on.
I was going to say, I love that idea because that means, like, some of the listeners to the show, we could basically say, look, we're going to go off at this wave. Anyone who wants to join us, we'll probably pick a later wave because one of us is probably not competitive at all. But we could pick a later wave, and it would almost be not quite an open wave, but you'd get that Spartan experience, but you'd still be running with your friends. And yeah, you'd all be able to catch up, and some of you may get points or may not. So I love this idea. One quick question, Gary, because I've not
Yeah,
seen it on anything. Are burpees coming back for AG or is it just for open?
just for open. We're still keeping the penalty loops, but we are going to try to ensure that they are more in line with the obstacles. So part of kind of this, I don't know, transition, reorganization, however you want to call it, within Spartan, we took Tough Mudder and Spartan and HQ US and HQ Europe and kind of mixed them all together. And so we're not so separated anymore. And it's been interesting. The Europeans are very keen on the sports side and fairness, even more so than the Americans I found. And they take it very seriously. With penalties have to be longer and they have to fit this narrative of the obstacles. And we think that's right. We don't want racers just to touch and go. And then all of a sudden that racer is beating the person that's doing the obstacle. I do think there's still going to be racers that are going to do a touch and go because they just know, there's no way I'm finishing this read. Why bother even trying? But that penalty has to kind of match the crime, as they say. So expect, the penalty loops to be a little bit longer or a little bit beefier, maybe adding more carries, more crawls, whatever the case is. But just to ensure that if you complete an obstacle at the same time someone has started that penalty loop, you will be ahead of them. And you should be ahead of them by, a good amount of time. It shouldn't be 1 second, it should be a true penalty. So penalty loops are probably here to stay forever in the elite and age group because of all the issues we've seen with, what's a proper burpee and trying to officiate those and hours of watching cameras. But we are working very hard on making those penalties truly match the obstacles that they're there.
I like that because that's exactly what I've been screaming for a long time, Gary. That a penalty loop or whatever penalty, whether it be time penalties or whether it be a penalty loop, it needs to match the obstacle. And if it takes you 30 seconds to get to an obstacle, it should be taking you a minimum of 1 minute to do that penalty loop as a minimum. You know what I mean? It's got to be at least twice as long as you would take an average person to an obstacle. So I'm all for all of those penalties. One thing you mentioned there, which I do quite like, and we incorporate it in the UK OCR series over here, is your 300 points. because the 300 points coming all the way down, I love that idea. I've loved that right from start. So, you finish in the top 300, you're going to get points from the elite down to age group all the way down. One thing I did think of, how are people going to qualify for elite status next year? So are they going to have to apply for a card, like a pro card like before? Is it going to cost them money? Do we know that yet?
We do. Yep. So we're actually completely ungating it. We're opening up elite to whoever wants to sign up. We think we need to kind of restart this category. And so we don't want to gate it. I've heard a lot of talk of like going to, the bicycle categories and stuff like that. But I don't think people fully understand to get into the pro level of like road racing, cycling. It could take 3 to 5 years minimum in 50 to 100 races. And we just, can't support that level at Spartan right now. Can you, imagine a new racer coming in within 5 years, they're probably done with their pro career, their elite career. So it's not something that we could do. And we know we need to rebuild kind of this elite heat. So completely open, you can self-seed yourself in there. We will be gatekeeping the regional championships and the world championships. The qualifications based on that will, kind of differ a little bit depending on what it is, but it will be based sort of on the distance. So, Croatia coming up here in a few weeks, we have a sprint championship. In that sprint championship, we will give a higher, level qualifiers in sprint races. But still, if you hit a podium on a beast, we'll let you into that sprint championship, but it'll be a little bit stricter on the non-matching distances, if that makes sense. So same thing with our Beast Championship in Abu Dhabi and the other championships that we have. So qualifications for those and for the 3 championships, or for the 3 regional, so your European Championship and stuff like that.
Garrett, I know this is an age-old question because it always comes up, but has Spartan given any thought on how to encourage people to do elite and not be enchanted by, well, if I do age group, I'm going to get a podium, whereas if I do elite, I might be the 15th best man there?
Yeah, that's kind of the crux of the problem, what we're trying to solve here. I'm looking at some different things that we could do potentially for the elite to elevate the experience on site. Maybe you get some additional perks, that type of stuff, a little bit more of a VIP experience. And a little bit more prizing. Obviously, in the past, pre-COVID, it was a little bit easier to justify people in there because we had prize money at every single event. It didn't matter if it was, your random Sunday in Alabama, it had prize money. So I don't know if we can go back to that right yet because the numbers just don't support it. But different types of, non-prizes. Can we go back to giving free races? Can we, find a sponsor that can maybe give some in-kind donations to these people? And again, just trying to elevate that experience. And then obviously the ultimate reasoning here is that's how you're going to get into the, events with the prize money. You won't be able just to walk into a world championship. You do have to earn your way into there somehow. So, every event should at least have some people that are looking to really become a world champion and get into these heats.
One of the things I used to like of when I used to race competitive, Gary, which is quite a few years ago now, and I haven't raced competitive for a while, unless you call WTM this year, ETM this year competitive. But I used to like going to races and watching the elites. So when I didn't think I was good enough, I used to love watching them, going out there. And here's a thought. This is just a thought process for you, of giving them something a bit different. The elites, when they finish, giving them a different type of top to wear rather than the straight up Spartan beast top from Pippingford. It says on it, elite race runner, just something along those lines, so that when they're in the event village afterwards, wearing their top, people know who they are. I'm not saying they will all wear them, but I bet 90% of them will. Because if I'd have ran elite back then, I would have definitely wore one. So
yeah,
just a thought process. Get them out there so that people know, and makes them proud to run in the elite way, because there are a lot of people out there that we know that can run elite. Maybe they're not going to podium. They're going to finish 7th, 8th, 9th. They're going to get a top 10 finish, but they'd sooner run AG, and they would sooner podium in AG. They'd sooner win every age group race rather than finish mid-pack in an elite race, because they're not getting nothing special. So I like the idea what you said about giving them something different. a t-shirt would just be it's peanuts t-shirt. It's not cost Spartan any extra money, but a sponsored shirt like so instead of just a normal Spartan shirt, one with all the sponsors on, you get the sponsors to pay for it. Boom, we've sorted it there. Ian, there we go. I've sorted another problem.
See, we always sort problems here on the show, Gary. Yeah, we just chat out loud and things happen. We do have a few questions for you
Sure.
a few listeners. Quite a few of these have been sent in by Graham Wells, so I'll give him a quick shout out. Graham, you know we love you. You are our resident Spartan expert when it comes to the show. He was wondering, you mentioned about the 300 points, and will that be kind of like divided by age group? Because he pointed out that in his age group, because it was so competitive, towards the end of the series, only 6 people had enough points from the required number of races to appear on the final podium, whereas there had been lots and lots of people, but they finished outside the scoring zone.
Yep. Yeah. So another change. So, we're definitely not bringing everything back to exactly how it was in 2023. One of the changes is the age group will have that same point system. So it'll be among your age group. So I'm 40. Geez, I don't know. 44. I had to think about how old I am this year. So yeah, if I was the first place, 40 to 44-year-old male, I would get 300 points. Second place gets slightly less. It's not 299. We have a little bit of a drop. So there is an award for being first place, you're getting a little bit of a bonus, and same thing for being on the podium. But yep. And it'll go all the way down to, I think it ends up, leveling out at about 200 places, which, we know no age groups at this time are hitting 200 people in a single age group. So it is going to be just among your age group. And then for the elites, it'll be among the males and the females. So top, male racer gets 300, top female gets 300, and it goes down from there. So a little bit of a change from the past, but we are keeping that status where, yeah, it's going to be 300 points, and everyone in the age group earns points, and that's for both elite and age group. And I think, again, it goes to simplifying. There's no more, trying to figure out the different point systems for elite, for age group. It's all the same no matter what category you're running in.
Fantastic. And I think I kind of know the answer to this, given what you said earlier about the national federations. But in the blurb you sent out, you said that age groups will be in an officiated age division, whereas elite will be in a highly officiated heat. So can you explain what's the difference between highly officiated and officiated?
Yeah, so basically, both of them will hopefully be highly officiated with the sponsors, or with the federations there. Obviously, a little bit more scrutiny will always be on kind of the elites because of the prize money and whatnot. But the goal is for all these competitive heats to get more trained officials there, more people that are trained specifically on the obstacles that they're at, going through the Spartan rule book, looking at accreditation, and just trying to get more of the same people at these races, and paying a little bit more attention, a little bit more time to it. Just so there's little rules that we have. And I always go back to like the monkey bars, where if you're on the steps and you grab the monkey bar and you swing off and then you swing back and get on the steps, that's considered a failure because you started the obstacle, you didn't finish it, and it's no different than dropping off the bars, right? You started, and before hitting the bell, you restarted. But we don't put that little nuance in the obstacle rule book. And unless you have asked the question or seen it before, you might not know it. So if we can get these officials that are, specialized in maybe a handful of obstacles, and we know that we're going to have these guys at every race, we can just ensure that these heats are, officiated to the same level. And it doesn't matter who you get. You're not going to show up to a race in France and they interpret the rules a little bit different than a race in Germany versus a race in the UK.
Well, the French tend to have their own rules, but I'll move swiftly on from that. Just kidding. We love you, our French listener. So please keep listening.
I thought I loved the French until I went to Morzine, and every meal was just bread. And oh my God, I thought I loved bread, and by the end of Morzine, I was so ready to eat like chicken.
Another question is about the release of dates, or perhaps the finalization of dates, because quite recently in the UK, at least, the Midlands event has been pushed back 3 weeks. So does Spartan have any plans on when the calendar, either in the UK or maybe worldwide, will be finalized and people can start planning for their season next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we all know, the Spartan calendar is finalized the weekend of the race. No, just kidding. We are hoping to have all the series, all that stuff locked in for October 1st. I can't say that date will never change and nothing will change, but over the years we've worked to get much better, especially at stuff like the series, because we know that people need to plan this stuff out. And even with the ability to drop some events, it's still hard to plan, a 3 or 4 race series for everyone. So we want to make sure that we get those dates locked in. Right now, the plan is for October 1st to have most of everything locked in globally. The big thing with us is unfortunately sometimes venues we can't announce it until we have all the paperwork done. And some counties and some states here in the U.S. are a little bit more of a pain to work with than others, and they don't do paperwork at the same speed we'd like them to. So we may know exactly where the venue is, and we may have the date locked in, and we know it's going to happen, but until someone signs that piece of paper, we're not allowed to say a word to it. And that's usually where some of our issues come from.
Another question, actually, the final one I'm gonna ask from the audience, and it's a little bit of a criticism, but I know you, Gary, you'll take this on the chin and you'll answer it with good grace and good humor. Is how much guarantee do we have that come 2026 we're not going to have a completely new way of doing things, a completely new series? Maybe we're using laser pistols. Maybe it's actually a Deca course, which I'd personally love. Feel free to throw that into a sprint. But yeah, what we kind of thinking? Are you going to try and keep with this for a while?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is we've been doing elite since at least 2012, right? I mean, I'm trying to think back to my first race. We had elite. From elite, we built out masters, which was 40 plus elite, and then from there we built out to age group. And then last year this year we made the complete shift to kind of erase everything that we did for the past 12 years. So we're just going back to that. So I don't want to say we're never going to change again, but I don't think we'll see any sort of kind of major shift like we did this year. We really tried something new. It unfortunately didn't work on the competitive side from a registration standpoint. I think operation wise, execution wise, I think it went well. But the reality is that the numbers, it didn't, improve the numbers for us. And after all, we are a business, right? So even if it's the best thing ever done, if no one's signing up for it, it doesn't matter. So yeah, we're not shifting again to something completely different, right? We're going back to mostly what we did for the past 12 years. So that's kind of the reassurance. And I know internally we're committed to it. We don't want to make any changes. We know that we've done well with age group and elite, and there's no reason to think it won't do well changing back to it. It was just, unfortunately, we made a big change, and we just have to kind of revert back to what we're doing. So I don't know if it's so much a change in 2025 as it is just reverting back to what has worked well for us over the years.
And yet still keeping some of the good points, which hopefully will bring in more people, like we talked at the start of the the segment here, about still being able to pick your time. I presume that Spartan will do their best to honor that time. It's not going to be a case of I pick half A and I plan out my bangers and mash for when I finish, and then suddenly find I'm going to be racing at 11:30. No, you're going to do your best.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So the age group is a narrow band. It's usually 4 heats most of the time, especially here in the U.S. So as long as you pick a time within that hour, you will be keeping that time within the hour. So not to say that, again, something might change and we have to move times up or back, but it should never be a holistic where, yeah, like you said, you sign up for 8 a.m. and all of a sudden you're running at the high noon and anything like that. So age group is age group, and we like where that time slot is. The only thing I will say is we are looking to play with a little bit of the heats to maybe get some more competitive sprints in there. That's one thing we've lost over the last couple of years as we've done more and more trifecta weekends. And I know that's something a lot of Americans at least are looking for. And, I think it's probably the same over there because you guys have lost a lot of the competitive sprints. And, it's a very different race. I think I can run sort of competitively in the sprint distance, but I could never run competitively in the beast distance, for example. So it's even though they're both Spartan races, a 5K and a half marathon are totally different animals. And most people aren't going to be good over both those distances. So that's the one thing that we're kind of really looking at is how do we get more of these sprints in there competitively for 2025 and in the future.
That's really positive. Alan, anything more about Spartan before we take advantage of the fact that Spartan and Tough Mudder are one big happy company?
Yeah, I've got one little thing. So Spartan are going back to what I would say the good old days. When I used to run Spartans, and it was like, you could go and you could run competitive and elite, and you could go and have fun in the open wave and that. So, yeah, are you bringing back the Spartan Street Team? Because I used to love the Spartan Street Team. Are they coming back, Gary?
So that's where I started with Spartan. I was a street team member who bugged the hell out of someone until they hired me. I don't think so. I think unfortunately the market has changed, right? 2012 is when I started on the street team, and it was just like you just had to make people aware that Spartan existed, right? It was just people or OCR existed. I don't think people even knew about it. I think here in 2024, I don't want to say everybody, but I think most people know of OCR, at least a general concept that exists. So now it's a matter of how do we convert these people to signing up? And so I know here in the US, we have our ambassador program, which was born out of the street team, but it's a little bit different type of program because that guerrilla marketing I don't think works anymore. We're in such a different market, even with social media and stuff. Back in 2012, just having someone on Twitter back then that could, anyone that talked about an event, hit them up and be like, hey, you talked about a triathlon. Have you seen this? Have you seen that? And just making people aware of OCR. It was just a different beast back then. But yeah, no, I started on the street team. I would love to see some of that come back. I just don't know if that guerrilla marketing is the same effectiveness as it was back then.
Yeah, I think in the UK we used to see it was like the flash mobs. It was the very first flash mobs was the Spartan Street Team. You would go to somewhere like we have the National Running Show, one in Birmingham, one in London every year. So it's like two every year, and you would see all of a sudden you would see like 20 or 30 of them all coming in with the same shirts on and stuff like that. And I was like, and back then, you're right, people didn't know what OCR was, 2012, 2013. People didn't know. And I just thought it was quite good that they got together and went to things like that. And I was thinking, maybe that would be pretty cool again because we're all about promoting OCR, and we don't have big budgets. We don't have any budget because Will takes all our money. But yeah, it's just great. I think any type of marketing for me is good. I was just interested whether it was going to come back or something along the lines.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works well with DECA, right? Because DECA's new, hybrid's new. And so you see that sort of with DECA doing the gym model, which they had to pivot from COVID. We were about to put our first DECA event on. I had my plane tickets ready to go to Denver, and all of a sudden COVID hit, and DECA, who had spent all this money building up to their first event, all of a sudden got shut down. And that team, good for them. They pivoted to kind of the gym model, and I think that works very well for them because you're just going to these gym and saying, "Hey, do you know this exists?" And that's the first key, right? I know that. High Rocks and DECA, they're growing and they're growing, significantly, but I still don't think they're as big as OCR is, and they still have a lot of brand recognition to get out there, or even just sport recognition, right? It doesn't even matter which hybrid it is. It's just, hey, there's this event which isn't necessarily CrossFit, but it's sort of CrossFit, but you can go do it. Your everyday person can do it, and just getting people aware of that and. The hybrid part of it, the running is still there, and it's the best of both worlds. So it works well for DECA so far.
It does, and we've seen that in the UK so far. As timing is, we're having Deca Fit this coming weekend, which is the first Deca Fit in the UK that is going to be run in partnership with the Spartan UK team. We've had a previous Deca Fit, which was completely run by a gym, but this is first time in partnership as the Spartan UK team kind of pivots to have a bigger role as opposed to poor Yancey trying to run 500 different things at the same time. So it'll be interesting. That's at the moment very much it's got this underground feel, even within the High Rocks community, which is massive over here in the UK. It's still a case of, have you heard this Deca thing? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that grows. I said I was going to move on from Spartan, and listener, I'm sorry, we're already over an hour for this episode, but we're just going to keep rolling with it. And if you're coming to the end of your long run, I'm sorry, just walk back and listen to the rest of this, or pause us and pick it up later. Question about marketing. What we've seen in the UK, and I've never checked in the US, but when it comes to the series, you tend not to know about it unless you are in it, shall we say. Whereas we definitely see this with some of the fitness racing stuff, in particular, Deca as it is. They are very, very hot at telling you how people are getting on. So will we see an increased marketing, well, budget, for like a better description, of saying this is the series, these racers in these age groups did well this particular week, or is it going to be the same as now, whereby you find out at the end?
Yeah, no, that is one of the plans and how we think we have to build the sport here. I've said it many, many times. I don't think prize money is the end all be all for, especially for the elites. It's the recognition. You look again at Michael Jordan's always the example I use. He made way more money on endorsements than he ever did playing basketball. And I think that's what we need to get to the point where, these top level athletes are being recognized. They're being known. People want to follow them. And in order to do that, we have to give them that platform and build it for them. So part of what I'm trying to do is, when we send out like recap emails, we're recognizing the winners, and we're also telling a little bit of their story. It's not just this person won. It was, this person won, and 5 weeks ago they had hurt their legs and they're coming back from this, or they took 2 years off because they had a baby, and here they are, as a champion this way, and then diving into the age groups too. So no, that's definitely a focus of mine personally, and working with the other departments on how can we just more naturally bring sport into things. We do know that, at least from a social media side, sometimes those posts don't perform well. So we need to work a little bit more naturally into it, because I think people are interested in, tips and tricks. What do you eat before a race? Stuff like that. Because you're first timers, we were all first timers many, many years ago, but obviously doing the podcast and working for Spartan, I'm sure we hear from first timers that are like, what shoes do I wear? And if you're in any Spartan group, I'm sick of that question, but it's just a reality that people don't know. So this is where we could highlight age groupers, and then here's a 5-time age group podium person telling you what they wear and, what they eat and that type of stuff. And, working with them to build their own personal brands up using our platform. So yes, absolutely. I agree with you. I think we've been very poor at times on highlighting the sport. And as we look to grow it in 2025, that's just one of the focuses is marketing, and not just announcing these series and then, not talking about them again as we have sometimes in the past. Let's keep updated. Who's winning, who's going to the next race, and, let's get a little bit of their story and their background and what pushes them, or, how are they able to be age group champions while also holding full-time jobs or being full-time parents and all that.
No, that's exactly what we wanted to hear. And as always, we'll happily do that. We do that for UK OCR series already. I know it's got our name, but a lot of the background stuff gets performed by other people who are far, far better at their jobs than me and Alan ever will even pretend to be, never mind actually be. But yeah, we'll happily help. We'll happily push that content if we see it. I'm going to ask you about World's Toughest Mudder, if that's okay, Gary, because
yeah, absolutely.
We do have, I believe, Alan, we do have someone from Tough Mudder coming on in the near future, hopefully. But we've got Gary here. Why not find out about him? Because I know he loves our food. So I want to know, Gary, you've got the inside track. What bacon are we going to have at the brunch? Are you going to import that horrible streaky stuff, or are we going to have proper Danish bacon?
I don't even know what Danish bacon is. It sounds horrible. Is that like Canadian bacon, which is basically ham?
No.
Okay. What is Danish bacon? This is news to me.
It comes from I don't know because it's like your bacon you get over in the States. So I've had bacon over in the States before. However, it's not cooked to the point where it's as crispy like a pork scratching. You can ask me what a pork scratching is now.
Well, the crispies gets it. See, I like mine extra crispy to the point where it's like almost crumbly. So you lost me there on the Danish bacon.
Yeah, so it's like bacon, but it's a bit bigger as well. It's a bit bigger because I'm going to say over here we have bigger pigs than you do over in the States. We have proper sized pigs and not miniature ones. Probably the only thing we do have that's bigger, but and then it's just nice bacon. It's Danish. Does it come from Denmark?
I'm not sure. It's also known as back bacon as well, whereas yours tends to be streaky. There's not as much fat all the way through. It's almost like a sirloin steak in the way the texture is. You know how you have the fat on one side of your steak and then you have the meat? That's kind of like the bacon is, Alan. Would you agree?
Yes, that's it. You've got it spot on, Ian.
So see, the whole brunch sounds just like a penalty for me. Like I'm just thinking English brunch, like an English breakfast. That sounds like a penalty for if you don't want to do EST, you need to eat a proper English breakfast. And I would run through EST every single time.
See, the brunch has got to have black pudding on as well. I know the Americans have never had black pudding, so it's got to have black pudding here.
Yeah, what do I have to do? I have to get electrocuted and go through tear gas and I'll take that.
Alan, did I ever tell you the story when Matt was over here?
About?
Well, when Matt was over here, we had breakfast with him and he had black pudding and he quite enjoyed it, but he was confused because me and Jen just ate it normally. It was like, what do you think of it? It's like, well, it's black pudding. And I think he thought it was maybe a little bit of a joke thing that doesn't get put on every single plate because it's so weird. But yeah, that's just northern breakfast. You've got to have a black pudding, which is similar to a haggis, but not quite because it's a bit more harder. Actually, Alan, haggis and black pudding, it's almost like streaky bacon and back bacon when you think about it.
Exactly. That's the difference.
Oh, dear. Right. Should we maybe ask, before I waste all of time talking about food, some questions about WTM? Gary, what can you tell us about WTM?
Which year? Next year? This year? Every year?
Next year. Oh, this year.
Let's
go this year. No, because we're going to get Will and his team on to tell us about next year. So Will's going to do with Matt Brooks and Giles.
Let's do both. This year first.
Yeah. So we're finalizing obstacles. It's obviously going to be in Florida, which potentially will be, I don't know your numbers, 18 degrees. It's warm, but it could be 90 plus degrees Fahrenheit. So warm races, humidity, definitely potential for alligators if there's any water nearby. It could be a interesting experience overall. So it should be fun. I saw the first kind of iteration of the obstacles, and just reading the description, some of them gives me some pause, which is, I guess, a good thing, right? Because that's what you want at WTM is some of these unique things. But yeah, I think you guys should tell me a little bit about what's the UK like at that time of the year. Is it going to be hot and balmy?
Oh, it's June, isn't it? And it's June in Midlands. So it could be raining, windy, sunny, snowy, or maybe a mini tornado. Yeah. All in one day. Yeah, maybe snowy is a bit extreme. It is the Midlands. It's not quite north where we still get snow in April or May sometimes. But yeah, it really depends. It's a great venue, by the way. We absolutely love the Midlands venue. It is a nice, what I call a generic venue, but I don't mean that as an insult. It's a venue you can do lots with because it's got the mud, it's got a hill, it's got a water feature, which often has E. coli in, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine next year. But well, it's got a lake which sometimes fails health checks, but it also has Creek Crusade. That's usually always on, isn't it, Alan? And that's always fun.
Wasn't on this year. Creek Crusade wasn't on this year when I went. They took you through down the side of it. Again, I think that potentially because it's not the greatest, cleanest of muddy sections that's out there.
The other thing is you mentioned about alligators. Yes.
Yep.
In the Midlands, there was an occasion once where the UK's most dangerous animal was a danger to the competitors.
Yes, there was. Yeah, there was.
One time at ETM, a bull was quite interested about all these flashing lights, so broke through a fence and then was just stood, I believe. I don't think it did anything at the bottom of the running course, and we had to be rerouted. So you're not going to get eaten by an alligator in the UK, American listeners, but you may get gored by a bull.
That might be a good penalty. Instead of EST, you have to run through a bull. You might get gored, but it's better than getting shocked, I guess.
I think you're going to love Midlands. The Midlands, of all the venues it could have chosen, for me, is probably the one. Rolling countryside, not huge hills, nothing major, but just enough to put a sting in the tail or a sting halfway around wherever it's run. It probably would lend itself, I think, for the 100 miles. I think, definitely someone out there that could get there, if not more. The only downside, I guess, for it, and I haven't been to any of the WTMs in the States, is that the middle center of the field where a lot of the obstacles are, it's not great, smooth running grass. It looks beautiful, but when you get on it, it's a little bit underfoot. You just got to mind your feet a little bit, little divots here and there. But other than that, it's a great venue, absolutely amazing. And spectator-wise, it's great for spectators.
Yeah, that's what it looked like for sure. I'm not 100% sure if I'll be there next year, but it's interesting, right? I like that. I like the high mileage. I think if you're doing something like WTM, you want to put in the 50, 75, 100 miles. So, a course would, like you said, it's runnable. Obviously, you need a little hill to put some challenge in there and kick your ass one way or the other. But it is nice. And the weather potentially being, not so hot or not so dramatic is always nice. Because here in the States, it seems like daytime you're sweating, at least the last couple I've done, because we've had warmer weather. But once the sun goes down, it's a complete freezing. So if it's a little bit different where it's, more mild through the whole race, I think that, puts some potential for some racers, put some big numbers down. And, maybe we'll get some new people that just can't make the trip to the States. And, it's exciting to see what new faces might show up at WTM that, some more locals that maybe you wouldn't expect that all of a sudden come in and can put in a lot of miles because they just haven't been able to make this trip over.
Already it's going to happen. The UK top race scene is so looking forward to it. The only problem is it clashes with another big race. So they're having to decide on whether they want to go. Is it Euros in? I think it's the Euros it clashes with. Whether they go to Euros or they take advantage of the first time WTM comes to the UK. I don't really know what you're going to get. I really don't know who's going to go where. People are saying to me, I want to go to the WTM, but they also don't want to miss out on representing the UK at the Euros. So it's a big choice for them to make, and whichever choice they make, they'll make it for their right reasons. But yeah,
I've got a couple of things. One, I will say to any American audience out there who are looking at coming over, please bear in mind the UK is a small country and you can actually get to this particular venue from pretty much any airport relatively easy. Maybe Edinburgh would be a bit more of a stretch, but you can go to Manchester, Leeds, any of the London ones, Liverpool, East Midlands is probably the closest. So it's not like, for example, going to mammoth for OCRWC, which sadly doesn't have anything near it, and you've got a long drive. Every airport is relatively 2 hours away, so do that. And the other thing, Gary, does this mean we have to do a GoFundMe to get you and Jamie over here?
Maybe we were just talking about that. If how we're going to do 2025. Geez, these years are flying by. We'll see. This is always our annual trip together. So we'll see if we can make it over there. It's a goal of ours for sure.
Well, if you do, remember that Monopoly money you gave me over at WTM? I've
Yeah.
still got that, so I will give it back to you
I have
if you
some
want
left
it
over
back.
from. I don't even know what this is all worth. This could be enough to get a plane ticket or a soda, but this is left over from when I went to Morzine. So we'll see.
Yeah, that won't be good in the UK, sadly. We don't
No,
use euros. But yeah, I've still got that Monopoly money that you gave me, so I'll happily return it so you can buy some decent bacon. Alan, have we got anything else to go through, or should we let Gary leave if he wants to leave, or we carry on with the rest of the show?
I just got one more question. The Spartan Elite series over in the States or the UK, Gary, will we start to see it live back on your YouTube channel or the Spartan YouTube channel? I used to
good
love watching that.
question. Maybe we're looking at, especially in the US, focusing on the shorter races for the Elite Series, because we know those perform better. The 3K did really well from a live standpoint for us because it was so much easier to cover. I think it was a little bit more exciting. I think running a beast is really fun, but I don't know if watching a beast is really fun because it's 2 hours of running and 10 minutes of obstacles. So we have focused a little bit more on the sprints here in the US. It was kind of our recommendation for all the countries, but they're going to do their series as they see best for them, and I think it's a little bit different everywhere. But we're looking at it, as some other people will tell you, like Jason, who does some of the live stuff now. He's even stopped doing live on OCR Report just because it's so tough. But we know if we can get a shorter course and potentially a faster course, we might be able to get more coverage of it and either do a true live or more of a live to tape where we're within 24 hours getting that up and trying to make it a little bit more concise and easy to watch. Because look, I mean, I love running a beast. It's fun, but watching it, even for someone like myself that's so ingrained in Spartan, it gets to be a little bit drawn.
Yeah, I get that with the beast, and I just love watching some of the races. And I think if it was a sprint, yeah, great. I would say please go live with that rather than live to tape. But yeah, beast needs to be live to tape, doesn't it? And get the highlights in there rather than 2 hours of because when I've seen those ones, it's like I'm one of those people that let's go to the end.
Yep. Yeah, and as technology goes out there, right? There's Starlink, there's satellite internet, there's some better stuff out there. So there's a possibility of us, grabbing a satellite and putting it up at a little bit more of a remote location. So you can do live a little bit better than, what we could do even 2 years ago, because, as cell phone signal sometimes just isn't great at some of these venues. It's always a downside, right? To find a venue that's in the middle of a populous place, especially here in the US, it's really hard. But once you go out of these populous places, the availability of, cell signals and internet and Wi-Fi and all that really diminishes quick, which hurts the product pretty quickly.
Exactly. Yep. Spot on.
Just like Matt.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I think this is important as we make these changes to, realize we're not just a U.S. company. So talk and get the feedback from people like Graham and other Spartan honks that aren't just in the U.S. So appreciate you guys having me. And, hopefully I'll be back on in a few months and we'll see a little bit more of the feedback. Hopefully the series and the calendars are all locked in and we can talk about that and, see how Tough Mudder WTM US went.
Perfect, Gary. Thank you so much for coming on.
Cheers, Gary. All the best, mate. And hopefully we'll see you at WTM next year.
Excellent. Appreciate it, guys.
Ian, now Gary's going, shall we talk a bit of IROX?
Let's talk a little bit about Hyrox, because wouldn't it have been nice to talk about it while he was on the call? No. Because it would be like back in the day talking about Tough Mudder when he was there, and now everyone big happy family. But we went from having no High Rocks news to having a lot of High Rocks news, didn't we? It's almost like buzzes where, yeah, none comes along for so long and then they all come at the same time. So, Alan, this week we've had a new rule book.
A whole new rule book. I saw your Instagram page and there was like page after page after page after page.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because usually these things just like, well, no one cares, is how I'm going to say. No one really cares that much. We always put a post when the rule book, I didn't go back and check, but I think when it went last time, we may have got 50 likes, if that. This time we put a post up and it blew up. I'm not sure if it's because of what they changed this year, whereas in previous years they haven't changed as much, but it definitely is probably a sign of how hot High Rocks is right now, that tinkering with some rules got such a response.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize you could even tinker with the High Rock schools. I thought they were set in stone. The movement standards are simple, Give me an overview of what's changed here. Tell our listeners.
Okay, well, the main one, which probably was a result of how popular this got, because everyone was sharing it, because we did a great picture of this, was wall balls for everyone is now 100. So previously, women's open races, as you know, used to do 75, everyone else do 100. Now everyone is doing 100, which is going to probably make it a little bit easier now for counting, because sometimes there has been confusion, like in the women's relay, for example. You'd think, oh, is it 75? Is it 100? With everyone being 100, it's the same. And Alan, I am all for equality, but perhaps not like this. I wanted open men's wall ball to go down to 75.
I'm in agreement there. Even though I'm not going to open men's, I'm in agreement. I wanted my wall balls over 55 to go down to 55. I was thinking you should do wall balls for your age when you get over 55. That's it.
I think that's fair, but that's the big one, and that was probably the one that generated the most conversation. One that we didn't talk about on our post, which also generated some buzz, and it might have been the way it was explained, was High Rocks mentioned that your feet on the burpee broad jumps have to be parallel now when you start the jump and when you finish the jump. The old rule was that if your feet were staggered when you stood up, you had to make sure you brought them together when you did finish your jump. Okay?
Yeah.
Some people have misinterpreted this, thinking that they have removed the step up, which they absolutely have not. You can still burpee and step up, or you can jump in, however you do a burpee. What it does mean is they're going to be more hot on the phantom movement, where people would step up and the first leg would come to their hands like it should do.
Yeah.
And the second leg would shift that little bit extra forward, because as you bring your second leg up, you're also moving your hands, so it's harder to see. So it's a little bit of clarification that when you bring your feet together before you do your jump, they have to be parallel.
Okay, I get that. That's how I do mine anyway, so that won't affect me, so I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair rule. The other one is, this was never actually in the rule book, and I had to go back and check, and it never was in the rule book. If you step on the line when you're doing the sled pull backwards, it's a penalty. Previously, it just said stay in your lane. So it was kind of interpretation of when you're in the lane or not. If you remember, Will did that horrible CGI of when you were doing the sled pull, which showed your leg completely out. And
yeah.
I don't think that was fair, that horrible either AI or Photoshop that he did, because we all know you stay in the rules. So, yeah, Will, please don't do that again. But yeah, now it is clear if you touch the line, it's out. So it's kind of like in rugby or something similar.
And what's the penalty for that?
Well, they've changed the penalty slightly. Back in the day, the penalty was 5 meters, but you had to do it immediately. So what you had to do is pull it out 5 meters and then back 5 meters, which was technically 10 meters, which when you're only covering 50 meters is a little bit harsh.
Yeah, 20%, yeah.
Yeah. So now at the end, you'll be pulling 5 meters per infraction. I do feel a little bit sorry for the volunteers when it comes to that, because that means if there's a lot of penalties, they're going to be shifting a lot of plates back to the ready position.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
But we saw this in the World Champs by Michael Sandbach, so it's kind of like Michael Sandbach's rule. So that's the sled pole. Another one, which is kind of cool, is the damper setting on your ergs, the ski erg and your row erg. You can now mess with it as much as you like. Previously, you could only change it before you started. Now, if you want to start the ski erg at 10 and then gradually decrease it, you can. It might not be the best strategy, but it's now an option. And I like it because it just makes it more simple, doesn't it? And it stops unnecessary arguments of saying a doubles when the next partner gets on and wants to adjust the damper settings. And from the referee's point of view, you don't know, have they swapped or is that the first person going? So, yeah, I quite like that rule.
Well, I like that. Can your partner in the doubles move it while you're rowing or while you're
No,
erging? Okay, so you're
no.
gonna while you're doing it, you've got to change it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what
Okay.
you've got to do. It has to be yourself, which is a little bit harder with the row than it is with the ski erg. Also on the row, I got this rule wrong initially, so I deleted part of our post. You have to have your feet in the feet area, so in the holder. It doesn't say you have to have them strapped in. It just says you have to have them in foot holder. I misinterpreted that as being you have to have them strapped in. That's not the case. If you're good enough to be able to roll without strapping them in, you can still do that.
Okay. I can imagine that being quite a bit of a, in triathlon, when they're coming into transition, they're coming out of transition, and they've got to put their feet in the pedals. They actually just jump on first and do a few pedals to get moving, and then put the feet in. I could maybe see that have been a bit of a game changer for timing. So in theory, you can jump on it, yeah, without strapping your feet in, get the air going, then reach down, strap one foot in, bit more pull, then bend down, tap the other one before you actually go full pelt at it. I can see that being actually a bit of a game changer.
You absolutely can. You've always been able to do that. What you couldn't do is you couldn't start pulling until your feet were in the holders. I think the previous rule may have said you have to have your feet off the floor, which of course means that if you were clever enough, you could start pulling it before your feet actually went in the holders. So in theory, it should prevent that. And it also makes it easier for the referee to decide, because is their foot on the floor? Is their foot in the air? You just don't know. Another thing is additional rules for straying outside your lanes in doubles. They're really going to try and crack down on people walking side by side if they're obstructing other athletes. So make sure that you're behind your partner. If there's no traffic, I suspect you'll still get away with being side by side. But if there is traffic, just make sure you're behind your partner. So that's that. And the final one, which we'll talk about, is the entering or leaving rock zone via the wrong pop-up, so out the in or in the out, is now a 2-minute penalty. It used to be 1 minute. And I like this rule because there were times, depending where the in and the out were, that a 1 minute penalty could tactically be good.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because
is that maybe like at Manchester? Because at Manchester, one of the first ones we went to, wasn't the in on one side of the course and the out was on the other side of the course.
Exactly. So depending on where it was, you may have been able to cut out a fair chunk of a lap. So I think 2 minutes is a nice penalty because for most people, 2 minutes is going to be close to a lap, maybe half a lap, depending on how fast you're running.
Yeah, cool. I like that. I like one.
Okay, so that's that news. And apologies, listeners. I thought we were going to be 10 minutes, and yeah, we're not, but we'll keep going. It's a very long, as our good friend Sophia says, it's a unhurried full.
Unhurried full, like that. Yep.
The other news is there's going to be Elite 15 for doubles. So there has been an announcement on 5 races, Alan. I will read them out. So Houston on the 15th and 16th of March. Melbourne, 14th and 15th of December, Miami, Paris, London, dates to be determined. In those events, the top 3 male pro and the top 3 female pro doubles will qualify for a Elite 15 competition that's going to be held over at the World Championships, wherever that may be. There are some additional rules on this, so there's no mixed doubles, sadly. There's a same partner rule, so you must compete at the World Championship with the same partner they qualified with. No team changes allowed, and 1 qualification per athlete. So if some athletes try to circumvent the same partner rule, someone like an Alex Ronkovich or a Hunter McIntyre or a Meg or a Lauren who may have tried to qualify with a few partners to give themselves backups, you can't do that. And I think that's a good rule because it would encourage people, 1, to run with someone who you're probably a team with anyway, as opposed to making a mega team. And 2, it does prevent the stockpiling. We're not yet sure, and I'm sure it'll become apparent, what happens if, say, first place in Houston has to pull out. We're not sure. I would speculate that maybe 4th place then takes the position and 5th place and so forth. But we don't know at this moment in time. But that's what they've done in the past. The most interesting news here, Alan, is whilst this isn't a big shock, we currently already have a Paris and a London on the race schedule. And this press release says that the dates for these qualifying races in Paris, London, and Miami for that are to be determined, which means, not a shock, but we will have at least 1 more London race in this season. I'd imagine it's probably going to be Olympia. I'd also imagine it will probably be sometime in May. But it also means we're going to get a second Paris event as well.
That's good. That more events. End of the day, it's more events, isn't it, to fill that demand.
Exactly. It should be fun because I've often talked about this, and I think we had a whole podcast on it, that the doubles is almost like a completely different event. And yes, I know some mega powers can join up, like we saw Hunter and a collection of elite men last year who took it on. And yeah, he did well, but sometimes an actual team who've been teaming together for a while, like for example, Kieran Parkinson, Tony Revel, beat the super team. So I like this, and it will build more athletes and more people within the sport.
Like it.
So, Alan, are we going to try and qualify at London or Paris?
Ian, I would love to do an IROX next year. Unfortunately, I'm not doing no functional fitness event until after WTM. I'm planning my whole calendar now to run WTM. I'm going to be really boring and say there's going to be no gyms, there's going to be nothing where I can hurt myself. Everything is about running in now for WTM. I've got my 100-miler coming up, Escape from Meriden. I've booked another ultra in January, which everyone knows about. You're welcome to come along and run that in Derbyshire. Anyone wants to come along and have a bit of fun. It's only 50k, I think just short of 50k. And only 20 quid for an ultra. You don't get that often. Hit me up if you want to come along. But yeah, I'm holding back on any other fitness racing event, Ian, except I want to go and do Dirty Dozen with you.
You definitely have to come and do Deadly Dozen. But the good news, Alan, is he will have an event next year in September or October, which will be after. So let's book on that.
Definitely, without a doubt. That's what I wanted to do next.
We'll do that. Right, I think there's a couple more OCR news and notes. Do you want to go to a free training day and we'll finish with a championship race?
We certainly can, Ian. So there is a free training day at Rumble Fitness on the 29th of this month. So anyone that is a member of British Obstacle Sports, and I'm just going to go and fetch the post up because I've deleted it. I think it's the 29th. I'm just going to check in. Sorry, 21st, Saturday 21st at 10 a.m. And it's an OCR training day, and it's at Rumble Fitness, and it's for any British Obstacle Sports member. So if you're a British Obstacle Sports member, then you can head down there and go down and do that race. Also, one other thing that's happening on that day, Ian, on the 21st, is that it is nuclear blackouts last ever blackout. So nuclear races, not the last ever nuclear races, but the last nuclear blackout going to change in 2025. That came out this week. I haven't seen the email. Someone just sent me the headline screenshot of it. So I'm going to find out. I'm going to reach out to nuclear and find out what's happening in 2025.
I presume that Essex is going to be like them places in Alaska where it will get nothing but sunshine from now on and nothing but daylight, so we won't be able to do a blackout. Do you reckon that's the reason?
That would be pretty cool because I'm moving to Essex if that's the case.
I'm not sure I'd like 24 hours of sunshine, but anyway, let's move on to what happened last weekend. Major event, Alan. Probably get talked about on some of our other formats, but what happened last weekend?
Yeah, so it was the Nuts Challenge 3K British Championship race. Yeah, I've got the results. I'm going to go through all the results, and we don't normally do this, but it was pretty good. Lots of things happened, so we're not going to cover it. So who's not covering this, but Accountability Corner are. So head over to Accountability Corner. We've agreed that they're going to do this rather than our Who's Up team, and who knows, you might get someone to talk from there. So. But let's go through the results. So we'll go through the adults first. Females 18 to 29, Lindsay Young won. Females 30 to 39, first Emma Kirkwood, followed by Nicola Gillespie and Cherylee Pace. Males 30 to 39, that was won by James Packman, followed by Tom Warren and Jake Childs. Females 40 to 49, Valentina Ferrari. I love that name, Valentina Ferrari. Second, Kerry White, and then Angela Brown. Males 40 to 49, Stuart Jeffrey, Jamie Schofield, and Rod Shapland. Females 50 to 49, Laura Haywood, and then Carnio Casellas. Females 50 to 59, so it should be males 50 to 59, sorry. Jason Wright, Tony Leary, and Philip Airy. Well done to Jason there. Females 60 plus, Wendy Brothers. Males 60 plus, Andrew Durance. Elite Way was won by Becky Neal, followed by Tamar Barkley and Louise Ferryman. And in the men's, Russell Welsh won it with Morgan Maxwell and Darren Martin. Russell's on fire at the moment, actually doing it. And I've also got the junior results. I say a big thank you to Wendy Brothers as well for sending us these. So she sent us the men's and the females. But I'm going to go through all the juniors as well here, Ian. So 10 to 11 female, Isla Lads, Sophie Jeffrey. 10 to 11 male, Henry Ferryman, Charlie Carman, Cameron Young. Female 12 to 13, Maria Burton, Jessie Joyce, Caitlin Wheelhouse. Male 12 to 13, Harry Jeffrey, Josh Lads, Frankie Smith. Female 14 to 17, Amelia Solomon, Izzy Baskerfield, and Lauren Cook. And males 14 to 17, Alex Cook, Hayden Andrews, and Jamie Percy. Now I'm going to give one more shout out because you probably never noticed this there, but Izzy Young wasn't even in them junior races. Izzy Young stepped it up to elite female race at the age of 13, Ian.
Wow.
More wow, she came fourth.
Oh, wow. Well done, Izzy.
Well done, yeah. Big well done. Big well done to everyone who went down there. Russell Walsh, 7.5 hour journey down there. I think he slept in one of the shacks down at the Nuts Challenge and beforehand as well. He's travelling everywhere to race, and he is on fire.
I know we're running out of time. Well, we're very much past locking stage at this stage, but can I just say a big shout out to all the second generation OCR stars that you're hearing there, because we heard a Burton and a Joyce in the female category. I want to say the 12 to 13, Alan. So well done to everyone. And there's probably some second generation stars that I don't recognize. It's just incredible to see this sport grow and grow.
Without a doubt. It's great to see there's people coming through.
It absolutely is. And speaking of coming through, final thing we'll chat about when it comes to the 3K, we had a budding media personality doing us a massive favour, didn't we?
Absolutely top quality. One of our podcast hosts on Pint Size OCR, Finlay Greenleaf, took the camera, ran around with it, chasing everyone for over 2 hours and doing commentary and filming and what an amazing job. We have had so many positive comments coming in saying absolutely well done. So a massive well done from us, Finley. It was actually great. I'm just in the process of downloading it from Facebook, and it will be on our YouTube channel later this week. I'm going to say, yeah, as this goes out on the Friday, it'll be out the following week on our YouTube channel.
Are we going to give him the same deal as Will? So we're going to triple his pay.
Triple his pay percentage-wise. Yeah, 300% pay rise.
Perfect. Get in touch with HR, Finley, and just so you can do your maths, just try and find out what 3 times 0 is, and it will save you a lot of time. Just check that HR's got it right. But we really, really appreciate what everyone does, because like the British Obstacle Sports, we are run by volunteers, and people like Finley, people like Will. I've started it now and I'll forget someone, but everyone who helps us out is just incredible.
And Claire Rosser on Who's Up this week, absolute star she was, filling in for Becky Neal. Well done, Claire, for that.
Just so many talented people. Soon, Alan, we're going to be able to retire.
I'm almost at that point I'm almost at that point. If it wasn't for editing and doing the Swift half with you, my friend, I could be close to retiring.
We'll have to find you some interviews, because it is coming up to the close season soon, Alan. So yeah, it's interview time soon for you. So you better start booking some guests.
I'm going to start looking right now. Anyone wants to, yeah, that's a good point. Anyone wants a guest on, come on, who wants to find out someone's story, hit me up, give me some names, and we will interview anyone. As you know, we've had elite runners, we've had fun runners, and we've had non-runners. We've had people with stories of how they've fought through adversity and overcome it. And we've had stories of people who are still fighting adversity. Whatever you want to listen to, however you want to do it, hit us up. We will interview them, or we'll ask to interview them.
Exactly. It doesn't necessarily have to be guests. If you have any topics that you'd like us to discuss, we've done this a little bit on UKHXR recently, haven't we? That we've been tackling topics in the off season. So if, for example, you want to know the best trainer or best way to improve your monkey bars or how to relax after a race, then yeah, let us know, and we'll do our best to find the right guest to fit the topic. Alan, I think this is probably the longest edition of Swift Half since we've had Martin and Kev on. So I am going to say it's a goodbye from me.
Ian, it's a goodbye from me. Listeners, once again, thank you for listening. You take care. You stay safe. You keep on running. And don't forget to keep in touch with us if you want to. All the best. Bye.